Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Come on!
Oh, live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages. Raghunath over here is your host, and I'm Kastuba Das, your co-host.
Senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. This is our live Srimad Bhagavatam study. This weekend, we have a Wisdom of the Sages retreat happening at the farm, and we're going to do live Q&A, which we're looking forward to. Gives you a chance to meet the people, meet the community. We have an ever-growing community that happens either on Zoom or they're sort of out there as mysterious others. We don't know quite who they are. Some others did show up here. Great. Ones we didn't know are out there. And as you can see, we've got a whole household of people here. Wave everybody in the background. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube or watching live, there they are. There's more to either side. Rick Lesher is here from Albuquerque. Harry Bo.
Yeah.
Some of our regular Zoomers have made it. Cody's here. Harry Bo. And a new couple, interestingly enough, showed up from East Greenbush, New York, which is like 30 minutes away. They're randomly, there's nothing random, I believe now, but they're from Austin, Texas, and they somehow moved to East Greenbush, which is super close. Well, you're part of our community, whether you like it or not, guys. We're not letting you go.
Who's that?
Christina and
Pleasure to meet you.
Sean. Welcome. Did you get transferred here or something? You're like, you know what? East Greenbush. Okay,
we'll
it's
get
probably got a good story behind that. And so today is the day we're doing questions live.
Okay.
Miss Mara, any announcements?
Bhakti Recovery Group meeting at 9:30 and Shloka memorization with Nityananda Chandra at 10 a.m.
There she is. Shloka memorization. That's a good class. Shloka memorization.
Important stuff.
Important stuff. You know, I was doing the Bhagavad Gita this morning with Mara. We do the Bhagavad Gita on a regular basis. And Kastuba was there. And you know, as you're chanting these shlokas, like, oh yeah, I used to memorize this chapter. I know a lot of these verses. They stay in the mind. And the mind is sort of like it's like a garage, you know, and you can keep it clean and organized, or you can have it like a pigsty. So the Bhagavad Gita is sort of like cleaning the garage and having these like sort of nuggets of wisdom that are just sitting on shelves in the mind, and they come out when you need them. They come out when you need them.
Yeah. They're good to bring out anytime.
They're good to bring out anytime.
And then they also come out when you need them.
When you need them, studying shlokas sharpens intelligence.
It does.
You know, and the intelligence is what we need to control the mind. So anyway, we're going to bring our people forward, and we're going to start with one of our Savites at the farm, and she's a local Zoomer, a regular Zoomer rather, and her awesome Evette.
And she's got a new haircut.
We've noticed, because we notice those things. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
That's cool.
All right, come into the screen. Hold the mic close to your mouth.
Wow.
All right, Evette, what's going on? First of all, Evette, what's your story? How did you get into all this stuff?
Well, I became a yoga teacher from asana, and I think it was 2008. I went to the Ahimsa Festival, and you said exactly what I needed to hear at the right time.
Ooh, all right. Shlokas came out. What did I say? Do you remember?
You were telling the story about, well, you were talking about like the tapestry, and the back of the tapestry looked messy, but
The
it's
old-
all organized in the front. And
Things appear messy if you look at the tapestry from behind. They seem random,
yeah,
but actually there's no randomness in the tapestry. It's actually all perfect. So your life was looking a little messy at the time.
it was messy.
Great. I'm glad it's all
And
I'm
it's
glad it's all
messy
zipped.
again.
I'm glad it's all zipped up now.
No, it's messy again.
Anyway, we're glad you're a healthy, wonderful, contributor to the community here,
Thank you.
and we're glad you're in our life.
I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How can we serve you?
Well, I have a question. And, you were saying about the messy garage. Maybe this like kind of like links to it in a way. Okay, I'll just read
Speak
this.
loud, right in that.
All right. My question is simple, may have been answered as part of a more complex question. It came to me while I was walking the dog. Listen,
Many things come up when I walk that dog.
listening to music and chanting.
Oh, doing all those three things at once. Walking a
Yes.
dog, listen, multitasker.
Multitasking. I was self-reflecting and wondered if this was a good thing or not. Good in that isn't the goal to have the Maha Mantra always on the mind? If I am chanting while doing other things, isn't that the goal, to have the mantra be the background track to everything else happening? Isn't it bringing Krishna in everything I do? Or am I creating bad habits and looking for a way to justify it? And should I sit and chant only focusing on the holy names?
I like that. I like that
Thank
question.
you for your time and perspectives.
Awesome event.
I like how she's analyzing her cheating mind.
You want to start with that? Shall I? You tell me.
Well, there has to be. I'll take a little bite at it. There has to be a time where we actually can focus on our. By the way, just adding Krishna to our life at all, walking down the road and saying, "Oh, look at that beautiful flower. I'd love to offer that to Krishna." And that's a huge step in the right direction of seeing ourselves as part of something bigger. As we start to grow and have the desire to grow more in our bhakti, we'll want private time with ourselves and the holy name that's not distracted. There sometimes is a season of life where that's very difficult. And people still try, and some people can do it, and some people are just overwhelmed. I've got babies, I've got twins, little babies, and they need me. And sometimes people are just overwhelmed by life. And to get that private time with Krishna is a deep struggle, to sit with the holy name. But if we're sort of like on a path, and we're a progressive path, we yearn for that time when we can be with the holy name. And when we really desire it strong, it's as if the ocean parts, and it gives us that time when we yearn for it in a strong way. So we want that one-on-one time. And at the same time, then on the downtime, it's good to have that Maha Mantra going through the mind when you're walking the dog, when you're driving to work, etc. But sometimes life is very, very difficult, and we don't have, when Kostuba and myself were growing up in the ashram, or if you've ever stayed for overnight at a temple, there's like 2 hours of japa time. It's like japa time. What else is going on at this time? Nothing. All you do is walk in a circle or sit down and chant japa. And it's like, wow, this is easy. I can chant 16 rounds, no problem. And then you get a household and you get married. And very often that time, it just starts to shrink. And so depending on how much we complicate our lives, that meditation time can easily go away unless we block it out and make it a priority. Kostuba.
Thank you, Raghunath. I'm in agreement with you. What were we just reading? I think it was just like yesterday or the day before. We're reading Bhagavatam about. Oh yeah, we're talking about Narada's consciousness, right? There was that one verse that got dropped into the chapter that we're reading, chapter 5 of the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, that just described Narada and how he's traveling around, how he's playing his music, and how his mind is always, I forget exactly what words were used, but it described that his mind is always continually fixed on the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna as he moves around and he sings. That verse was there as a kind of framed a picture for us to understand this is where bhakti goes, right? This is the healthy state of consciousness that it came up today in What were we reading
Bhagavad
today?
Gita, ninth
Bhagavad Gita.
chapter.
What was it? Nitya Yuktasya. What was it?
Satatam kirtayantomam
Yeah. And then what's the last line of that? Satam Kirtiyantamam.
yajanam parshipashate.
I'm not sure if it was that verse number, but there's another one where it said Nitya Yuktasya, I think it said, right? Like
Yeah.
that Nitya, always, continually, nonstop, Yukta, connected.
Mm.
That's the healthy state of consciousness that we are striving to achieve through Bhakti Yoga. That's where the Bhagavad Gita points. That's where Bhagavatam points. That's our idea of samadhi. At least one of our, it is our general idea of samadhi, right? That our mind is always going to Krishna. So whether you're walking the dog, your mind is going to Krishna. That's healthy. Even you're playing other kind of music. We didn't hear Evette exactly what music she was
No,
listening.
she didn't tell us what type of music, and she didn't share that. What did she say? The Beastie Boys
Okay, there's one of the Beastie Boys is
is a devotee of Krishna.
Bhakta. So there may be a connection there. So if you were to ask me, so all that being said, that we want our mind to go to flow continually. Beastie Boys comes up, our mind goes to Krishna. That's good. But at the same time we're practicing.
Fight for your right to Sankirtan party. A Sankirtan party.
Sankirtan party. So we're practicing bhaktas. We're in the unfortunate position, at least many of us or most of us, that our mind does not spontaneously, with affection, go to Krishna always in one way or another. No matter what comes up, that nitya yukta, that connection stays. So therefore we practice, right? We practice bhakti. And part of that practice that's handed down in our lineage is that we chant japa. We take our beads and we very consciously, with a very clear intention, we want to bring our mind to those names and absorb the mind deeply in those names without distraction. That's the nature of the practice. That by that full absorption, all the problematic programming in my mind I'll become free of that. And that's what Sri Chaitanya speaks about in the beginning of the Shastra, where he says, Cheto Darpana Marjana, that through this chanting, he describes it as a mirror of the mind becomes cleansed of all the dust. All that dust is my false identification with my body, my false identification with my family, my false identification with my nation, with my sex or gender, with my race, all of that. And then everything that stems from that initial false identification with the body. I need this to be happy. I need that to be happy. I need to avoid this. I need to avoid that. All of that. The idea is that by bringing, it's a simple idea. It requires faith to accept it, that by bringing my mind and deeply absorbing it very consciously, by engaging in the practice of very intentionally, consciously bringing my mind to that name, I will become purified of all of this problematic programming. So
problematic programming, like that.
Okay. So therefore we create rules, right? That's what rules and regulations are for. They're to refine the practice. So as you're saying, okay, in this 2 hours, I'm just going to sit and do nothing but this, and deeply with the intent, with the hope that it'll aid me in that absorption. I won't listen to the Beastie Boys in these 2 hours. I won't walk the dog in these 2 hours. I'm going to focus in these 2 hours. So within the same Shikshastika, Krishna says that when we chant these names, there's no hard and fast rules, but sometimes we impose these rules to help us focus. So if you were to say I've taken a vow to chant 16 rounds and I have this practice to chant regularly every day, and today I just do it listening to the Beastie Boys, and then I would say you're not practicing it so well, right? But if you are doing that, and in the rest of your day your mind is spontaneously or happily going to Krishna, and that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing. And so it's kind of like there's no simple answer to that.
Because we're not simple people. We all have a different, unique signature lifestyle.
Yeah, and there's, again, the idea is that the attention is going to Krishna. That the object of our love, that we show them attention. We don't neglect them. You don't neglect the object of your love. So one way not to neglect is to create some rules and create a box, sit in that box, and say, particularly, there's different types of formality that we show. Like, in other words, if an important person was to show up in this room right now, we'd probably just say, stop the podcast for a second. We need to greet this person properly. We need to show them the attention that we want to demonstrate our affection for them or our respect for them. That's what sitting down and chanting japa is like. But then when that person wasn't here, in one sense, if we're walking around but we're thinking of that person, then in one sense we haven't done the formality of stopping everything for them, but that thinking of them is a further demonstration of our affection, that our mind goes to them. And so it's kind of like that. The principle is that the mind with affection goes to Krishna. And sometimes we do that in a regulated, formalized way, and sometimes that manifests in an informal way. So I would say, like, if Raghunath said to me, "Hey, what's going on?" Kastu would say, "Well, I'm walking my dog, listening to the Beastie Boys and chanting my 16 rounds of japa." Raghunath would probably think, Kastu's got a problem, right? Like, he's slipping. But if I said, "Yeah, my next door neighbor had a dog and I'm walking and someone next to me is playing the Beastie Boys and I'm thinking about Krishna," he'd say, "Oh, that's great," So it's I think it was a good thing. I think it was a good thing.
And it's weird for people in different situations. If a person's like, I think people listening to the show, I think a call to action would be sit and chant one round of japa where you're not moving. Maybe you have a picture of Krishna. You can close your eyes. You can see Krishna. You can call in your mind. You're calling Krishna to your life, and don't let anything distract you for that one round of japa, and see how that feels. Just like if I say, I'll go to the gym or do 100 push-ups, it's not going to feel great tomorrow. It's probably might even feel worse than what you felt like the day before. But as you do this on a regular basis, say for a month, see how that magic will happen in that 1 month of calling divinity, calling Radha Krishna into your life. But do it in a way that Krishna is real. If Krishna is real, like if Kaustubh is real, which he is, and he sometimes calls me out on this, so you're like, "Are you even listening to me?"
Yeah, that's exactly.
I'm standing here and I'm so distracted. Right. So Krishna is real. If I'm distracted when I'm with Krishna, it's like it's a little rude in one sense. So be a little focused for one round and see if you can show up for that. That's not 2 hours. That's 10 to 20 minutes to get one round, and just say it with all concentration and see how that works for a month. And it's your sacred time where you can get away from the kids, time where you can get away from the dog, time where you get away from the Beastie Boys. They're always banging on your window. I know, probably. Come on, Evette, let's play. But experiment. That's a call to action to everybody out there. One round of japa, sitting in front of your deities or a picture in a private, clean place, and see how that works.
How's that, Evette? Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for the question.
love you, Evette.
Okay.
All right, good.
Who's next?
Who's next, Mara? Oh.
Kelly Skinner.
Kelly Skinner, come on down. The bright light of Vermont, lighting up, keeping us warm when it's cold.
Let's hear it for Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah.
Kelly, why don't you just give Kelly is a leader of a Krishna community there up in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, leading. She's in a kirtan band, Kelly and the Cartels. She's good friends and asks advice all the time from Srinivas Prabhu, who runs the Waitsfield Inn and what's the other inn called? The Swanson Inn, which is a vegetarian bed and breakfast. We encourage not only for vegetarian, prashad. That means they cook with love and devotion. So if you want to do best waffle you've ever had, and if you really want to get that experience, that Vermont experience, you go up there, Waitsfield Inn, Swanson Inn, go visit our good friend Srinivas. And what else are you up to? You do a lot of stuff, and I'm glad you're here at this Wisdom Sages retreat to check in. We met each other in 2019, I think.
Yeah, 2020, January.
Oh, wow. Right before the
airplane.
pandemic, on the airplane, we connected, right? Do you remember what we were talking about?
Yeah, we were both doing yoga, like taking laps in the plane during the 15-hour flight back from India. And we were doing yoga by the toilets and got yelled at like several times by the flight attendants to move, but we stuck together.
All right.
We talked for 2.5 hours and we talked about Bhakti. You said, "Can I give you some fatherly advice?" We talked about relationships and you encouraged me to date Krishna for
Well,
at least
Krishna
a year.
is pretty attractive,
Yes, the most attractive.
and he can fulfill all your desires.
Right.
Yeah. I think my exact words were, the next guy you should be dating should have ankle bells and a peacock feather in his hair.
Yeah, you were like,
And you're
I
like,
know
where am I
what
going
your
to meet that funky gypsy?
Yeah, you said, I know what your next boyfriend looks like. I'm like, oh my God, I think I met like a mystic. Like everyone seems to really be into this guy. This is so awesome. He's like, and you said he has a ankle or bells on his ankle and a peacock feather in his hair and a flute in his belt. I'm like, and you're like, and he's blue.
You're like, do I have to go to like a rainbow gathering to meet such a man? A Renaissance fair.
I was thinking like a Quidditch match or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I was new to Bhakti then. I had been practicing or teaching yoga since 2013 and practicing since middle school with my mom. And I went on pilgrimage in India and then met you in Vrindavan briefly, then on the plane.
Wow, it was great.
And you gave me the Zoom link. You said, we're just started this podcast. It's at 5 a.m. Here's the information. And I joined, and ever since then.
Wow, we just started. That was 2020 in February.
Yeah.
That was before Joe Rogan podcast, which launched. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how can we serve you today, Miss Kelly?
Thank you. Yeah. So I was talking with a dear friend 2 days ago, and I'm not going to share her name, but
This is a question for a friend.
A friend.
Actually,
Does the friend have red hair?
She wrote it out. I asked her to write it out, so I am giving her the credit, but I was curious too. And so she's been in the movement for 20 years or so. And
the movement means like practicing Bhakti for 20 years.
So she's seen a lot more than I've seen. And some may say that I can be naive and see the world through rose-colored lenses. I don't know about that, but I think I've grown with my discernment. Anyway, but I am in lifelong recovery from codependency and being a people pleaser and wanting to do, I do want to render service genuinely from my heart. And I also know that it can be challenging for myself and many people to make sure you're serving. Is it actually selfless service or is it serving, to please? Right. And I think that's a fine line. So the question that she very well articulated was, how do you accept the fact that there are some relationships that you have on the Bhakti path where people will continually take advantage of you and spiritually bypass their responsibilities by writing it off as an opportunity for you to be of service instead of them recognizing that they have fallen short of their own obligations?
I like that one.
And then thank you so much for your service. Thank you for providing this incredible family, virtual family for us and family in person. I've been all over the world with you. It's like been the most incredible magical journey of transformation. And I'm so grateful to be able to serve you both.
Haribo.
So thank you.
Yeah,
Haribo.
thank you.
You just bring magic wherever you go.
Yeah. I've thought about this question a lot too.
Okay.
As I used to go to Coda meetings.
Why don't you summarize the question again?
Well, how do you know? Well, your codependents want to render service to receive love in return. And oftentimes the person they're rendering service to is manipulating them and overwhelming them or if not using them, if not being violent or abusive. For example, classic codependence is, you have a son that's an alcoholic and you want to take care of your son. And he goes out, he gets drunk, gets a DUI, and you bail him out. Okay, come on, don't do this anymore. You got to promise we won't do that. And the son's like, I'll never do that again. Then all of a sudden, he gets into drugs, and he gets arrested one night, and you bail him out. And after repeatedly bailing someone out, after a while, it's like, am I actually loving this person? Or am I just trying to please them because I want them to like me? If I say, no, I'm not going to bail you out, you're going to stay in prison and learn your lesson, I'm afraid they're going to withdraw all their love from me. So this can happen, especially in Bhakti circles. This can happen. So I thought about this deeply too, in my own sense, because I have a tendency to want people to like me, and I want you to like me, Kastuba. And I've been a little codependent in our relationship, and I got to draw a line in the sand.
If you want me to like you, please do the following.
What?
Stop singing songs during the takeaways.
No. All right, so listen. So I thought about it deeply, and the desire, if you suffer from this codependence also, That desire to want to please is a very, very beautiful thing. But you got to be very careful in that who you repose that trust in.
This is all around trust. This entire question is around trust.
Yeah. Because the person has to be trustworthy, and they have to not take advantage of you. They have to be willing to check in with you. How are you feeling about this? I'm going to ask you to do this. Do you feel okay about this? And you have to learn at what point this is just too much for me, and I have to say, you know what? I love you a lot, but I can't do this. This is just too much for me. It's overwhelming. Now, at the same time, sometimes in the name of service, people do go above and beyond. And this is not just like some brand new monk in the temple. I've seen like Radhanath Swami and stuff like that. They just want to serve Krishna. And if I just say, Maharaj is taking a rest in New York, I say, oh, Maharaj, I really want to see you in upstate New York. Is there any way you can come here? He'll be like, okay. Even though he might be sick, he would sometimes make a trip against his better judgment of his health, of his well-being, quote, spiritually bypass his own well-being. And in one sense, there's something very beautiful about that. But in another sense, you have to figure out your limit, because in one sense, we need you for the long haul, Kelly, and your friend. We need you for the long haul.
Your friend,
and your friend, your red-haired friend. So yeah, in one sense, we do want to step it up. We do want to step it up, our devotional service, but we can't get to this point. And this is the real red flag, when you start to resent the person you're working for, as well, because that resentment's never a good thing. And so, yeah, I should be careful who you serve and love. Right? What do you think?
I agree with everything that you said, Rana. I think in general, and I sense that this question is kind of within an institutional context. Maybe not entirely, but we grew up in ashrams, and then ashrams have a certain management structure, and then within that structure, there's potential, because it's all based on voluntary service. Then someone's job is to actually engage all these people in service, and then where the lines get drawn, there can become tricky. Mm-hmm. And in a healthy kind of working relationships like this, there's a clear understanding of what each person's accepted responsibility is. And if at some point there's an agreement upon that, and if circumstances create a situation wherein it goes beyond those agreed borders, then everyone understands that too, and they understand why, and they understand for how long, and that's good communication and good management. That's healthy. So that should be there. I think the question was, how do you know when it's gone too far, or so? Yeah. Okay. So right. Yeah. So within the question, there's the question is somewhat loaded, in the sense that it's making a judgment that this person is actually, what was the word you used? Manipulating. There's an element of manipulation here.
Sometimes it's not manipulation, though. Sometimes it's she seems like she's happy with the work she's doing. I'm just going to give her some more to do.
So that's part of the subtlety in this. Like, if we're assuming that the questioner is perceiving everything 100% accurately, then that there actually is manipulation going on, which may be the case, then that needs to be addressed. And there's subtleties in this, because I appreciated where Raghunath took it, which is like a dangerous place to go, actually, in the world of cancel culture and so on. And others, to say, when we look at the lives of the great spiritual practitioners, we see that often they existed within realms of unhealthy boundaries, and they transcended it. They accepted it on a higher spiritual, through a higher spiritual vision. They said, whatever the circumstances, even if on the level of mundane fairness, that this has gone beyond that, on the higher level of spiritual reality, I accept that whatever is coming in my life, in one sense, is gifted by God and is for my purification, and I accept it. But one has to be really careful with that too. This principle of love and trust transcends everything, right? Ultimately, it does. But we need to be very, very, and all our books speak of that, and they're meant to take us to that point. When you get to Sri Chaitanya, in our lineage, we accept Sri Chaitanya as Krishna himself coming to reveal how bhakti is practiced, absorbed in the very pinnacle of divine love. And he leaves us only 8 verses. He condenses all his teachings into 8 verses, the Shikshastakam. And the conclusion of that Shikshastakam is he's expressing like, dear Krishna, whether I'm yours no matter what the circumstance, or if you're kind to me, if you're unkind, I'm just, ultimately love is like that. Ultimately, the mother that loves a child is ready to do anything and everything for that child and accept them and love them no matter what. That is the picture of divine love and we're striving for. But now let's bring it down, like down to like the world that we're operating where we're not all in that divine consciousness. It's a fact that within whether intentionally or unintentionally, like Raghunath is saying, like they're asking you to do something and it may be their lack of empathy, that they don't quite understand what you're going through. It may be they're overwhelmed as well. And, you get in those positions. We're trying to maintain this ashram financially, managerially, and maybe the person that is apparently manipulating is actually more overwhelmed than anyone else. That's a possibility too. Or it may be that they're insensitive, that this is purely manipulative, that it's just wrong. It's not easy. If the question is, how do we know when? There's no just simple litmus test to answer that question, but it's something to be aware of, and it's something to not be afraid to talk about. It's something that's we need to have the courage to bring it either to that person or to someone else to help us work through this. Hey, I feel like I'm being manipulated here. Can you help me talk to this person? Maybe, I'm not, maybe I feel comfortable talking to them about it. Maybe I don't, and I want to talk to someone else about it, but we shouldn't exist in circumstances that are unhealthy for us. Say, for instance, that the purpose of the ashram is so that the people that come there can have an opportunity to deeply pursue their spiritual life and spiritual practices. That's the whole premise of why this ashram exists. But what's happened now is that the manager of the ashram, it may be purely out of their desire to serve. It maybe they get prestige out of being the head of that ashram. That might play into the decision making and how they engage us. Maybe they're making us do things that they wouldn't be willing to do themselves. And maybe in doing that, it's not actually healthy for my spiritual life. Maybe they put me in a position where it's actually damaging to me. And certainly we've seen, instances like this. We've seen historically, we've seen there was an era,
especially an era
where the logic was, hey, collecting money to support this temple itself is a spiritual activity, even if the way that you're doing it kind of compromises your own consciousness as you do it. So
your own personal integrity. So do anything it takes to get that money.
Yeah. And so that was actually, again, there's motives maybe mixed across, but it was manipulative and it was unwise, and it did compromise the spiritual life of those people that were surrendering and doing it. So I don't
think it compromised those who were telling them to do it more.
Compromise everyone. But so all that being said, I can't say that here's how you know. This is how you know. But what we can say is it is something that you should be very conscious of, and it's something that you must have the courage. You must have the courage to be able to confront it. And again, maybe to do that, if some people are naturally confrontational, they have no problem stepping up and saying, hey, what's going on here?
Right.
Or even respectfully, excuse me, which really
Sure.
should be done respectfully, excuse me, but it seems to me that this circumstance is unhealthy. That may be difficult for someone. Someone may say, when I try that, they got all these answers. And I walk away like
More confused.
yeah, still more confused.
Yeah.
I know that there's something wrong here, but they have a way of explaining it that there's nothing wrong, but I still know there's something wrong. That's a very real possibility that it is working that way. Then you need to find someone else to help you work through this.
Yeah.
Someone that can talk to that person and help you.
Yeah. You got to be a little,
get it all out and
if someone
respond to it.
if someone is putting you in a situation where you feel uncomfortable again, and then when you bring that to them, they're giving you more answers, right? Like, what would you do if I was working for you and I say, well, Kelly, and you got me like cleaning out the horse stall, 7 days a week, and I've got two babies in my arms. I'm finding this a little difficult. And you're like, well, real love to me, if you really love me, you're going to clean out that horse stall. The babies are going to come second. You know what I mean? And the way you talk is you're so sharp and clever, and you make me laugh and you make me cry. And I don't think you do that. I think you say, okay, that's too much. What about 3 days a week? Can you do 3? Is that too? Would 3 days a week be working? It seemed like you'd back off instead of pushing forward. If you're finally getting these things where you're appealing to a person and they're still holding you to it, then a red flag would go up for me.
Yeah, in the circumstances, those are always like, they're always different, right? But but there's this principle here. Like, if you really feel there's something wrong and you have trouble articulating it, particularly when someone seems like the way that they can speak, you just can't counter it, then you may be in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Or you may need to seek help to help work through this.
Talk to somebody else that you trust.
But you shouldn't exist in a circumstance where you continually feel this is not right.
Yeah.
You got to get to the point where you feel this is right, where you honestly, when being entirely honest to yourself, with yourself, you've accepted this is right, this is healthy, this is good. If despite you're trying to express that, you're walking away, even agreeing to something, but inside there's a voice that's saying this still isn't right. It needs to be you don't settle until you feel it's right. I suppose I'd say
we need to develop discernment to even note this, which it seems like you have or she has. And a great book is Codependence No More by Melanie Beatty. That's a Bible. That's a Bible for people who suffer from that type of people pleasing and compromise their own personal integrity. But sometimes just by hearing about these stories, you start to realize, oh, I was doing the same thing for years. It's good to hear that. It's good to recognize those things in yourself. And it's good to have people, if you're going to serve, don't like cut out service. Serve, but you got to know who you're serving. You know what I mean? And if you feel like this person actually cares about us. And if you're the person that's getting served, you actually have to fully care. When a person comes up to you and says, I'm struggling with this, then you have to not hold them to some detail of a philosophical point of really surrendering to God, etc. You got to give them space to grow and to learn to love. Okay.
And now I think we relatively spoke to that side of it, and just one little bit to the other side that you brought up.
All right.
Sometimes you may be in a circumstance where you feel like, actually, this isn't quite right. But I can handle it. Like, in other words, it's like this leader, this authority in this position, what they're doing is not
this husband, this boyfriend, this girlfriend, this whatever.
When it comes to that kind of intimate relationship, I might not apply what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But in those working, serving circles that we enter into, we might feel like, okay, the authority in this particular circumstance isn't actually manifesting what I would hope for in a leader. It's not quite fair, but it's okay. I can handle it. It's not damaging me. It's not damaging my faith. It's not damaging my spiritual life. It's not damaging my health. It's not damaging me psychologically. I can take it up. Sometimes spiritual life is about that too. Like, and we see that in the lives of the saints and so on, that they were willing to go that extra mile or carry that.
The only
extra-
problem with that, Stu, I feel like, is if you're doing that and they're sort of like, I'm going to give this a pass. This guy is not qualified, but I'm still going to render this. Oftentimes, that's just you end up doing the work with a little bit of resentment.
Well,
And then you walk
then
away
it
from the
can't
whole
be.
thing and you feel like, yeah,
No.
I was manipulated for 14 years.
It can't be with
You
resentment.
can't work with resentment, period.
Agreed.
Once there's resentment there, stop the work.
No, always when it comes to devotional service to Bhakti and doing it within an institution or
Community.
some kind of formalized community.
I like that. What we have here, like Evette. You know, if Evette was coming here and just saying, yeah, okay, gonna wash the sheets again for this loser. Where is Evette? Sorry. She went to cook. Oh, she's cooking right now. Sorry, Evette. But the idea is we don't want it to go there. I don't want it to go there. If she's not happy with rendering service to the community, then I don't want it.
If we don't feel good about offering the service, it actually it's kind of ceases to be devotional service.
Yeah.
Because
It's-
the devotional element becomes lost.
It become codependence and manipulation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think there was.
Hopefully,
I think we beat that
covered
one
some
up.
good ground on that one. Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
Who else we got on the list? Miss Mara. Oh, wait. We gotta give a shout out to Miss Mara's vegan meatballs yesterday.
Oh,
She rocked the house. Those vegan meatballs were everything we've been talking them up to be for years.
they were.
Put them in a grinder. We call them grinders, the big sub sandwiches, and that was quite wonderful.
That
Thank
was
you,
quite
Miss
wonderful.
Mara. And those aren't easy to make. Thank you. Very
Okay.
grateful.
We got Paige Family Bhakti in the
Page
house.
Family Bhakti. Woo!
Hi, everybody.
Jen Page.
Well, I was going to say, like when we say Page Family Bhakti, and you give yourself that, it's kind of like it's beyond just like,
Like the Partridge Family.
yeah, there's those people over there, that family. It's almost like a clan or something.
a crew-
It's like
it's
a
a crew-
Wu-Tang
it's-
clan.
It's like a crew.
It's not just like an ordinary, like a couple rappers over there. It's like a Page
It's my
Family
posse.
Bhakti. You know, when I hear that, I say, wow.
I know. I'm
this is
thinking
for real.
like, they've got lots of people walking down the street, singing
Well,
songs.
you guys gave us this name.
Oh, did we?
Oh, you totally did. And then I changed my name.
It was you, Rogan.
That was all right.
Yeah, it was. And shout out to my husband who is out there, Krishna Das, who allowed me to be here on this retreat. I'm so grateful to be here with you, my teachers.
He's taking care of everything at home.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Are you sure you're not manipulating him?
Are you sure he's not manipulating you?
I'm pretty sure he's very happy that I'm here and just happy to be doing what he's doing too.
Okay, great. Just checking. Just okay.
And she gave me a little violin lesson yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Raghunath knows how to play the violin.
Slightly.
He blew our mind that other back in June when Genevieve was there and he picked up Genevieve's violin. Oh yeah. Okay, now we're talking to
Yeah.
you. Right. All right, you got a question.
You got to
today.
talk right into this microphone. It's
Okay.
very
So
sensitive.
when I first learned about Bhakti, one of my major roadblocks was accepting that God is a person.
Hmm.
I'm sure that the main reason was because I was born and raised in a Jewish family. It took me a very long time. My husband had been into Bhakti for 10 years, and it took me many years of him practicing at home to really accept for me the idea that I could have a relationship with God. So how would you explain that God can be a person to somebody who is brand new to Bhakti?
That is an excellent question.
Good question.
Good question. Let's hear it for that question.
Woo.
You want to
You-
try?
I would keep it simple. I was just like, well, you're a person. Why can't God be a person? You're saying you have some quality that God doesn't have. Why can't God be personal? And some people will argue, well, God is impersonal. Some people say, no, God is personal. We got it covered here in Sanatan Dharma,
Mhm.
Vedic thought. God is impersonal. It's personal, right? God is masculine and he's feminine. It's like all the bases are covered here. It checks all the boxes. You want a personal relationship, God, you can have it. If you don't, if you want to just feel God's energy and things, there's a path for that too. All the boxes are checked here.
True.
Yeah. Now there's even different scriptures that highlight a personal feature and scriptures that highlight a impersonal feature. So if you want a personal relationship, it's there for you in Vedic teachings. There you go. That's my simple answer to a new person.
Yeah, I think the roadblocks to accepting that God is or can be a person, they're more psychological. This is my observation. They're more psychological than logical.
Are you saying she's psychologically impaired?
No.
Okay.
I say she was so very recently. No, but in other words, like logically, like you're saying from a Jewish perspective also. So that's from
Why don't you talk to her looking at her there?
That's why I wanted to put this thing around.
There she is. There she is.
I can see it. So logically, particularly for people that already believe in God, some concept of God, there's a logic, there's a sound logic to understanding that God could be is there a God? Well, one logical approach to that is they would call it like intelligent design, right? That this world functions like a machine. We can see it. Machines have intelligent designers. Ergo, there must be an intelligent designer to the universe, right?
Ergo is that what you just said?
Ergo. You don't know ergo?
I don't know ergo.
Therefore. In logical
Herein.
circles, we
Herein.
not herein. Thus would work.
Thus.
So
Chant.
and then one could extend that logic and say that wherever we see intelligent designers, we always see person, right? At least if you follow it back farther enough.
Sure.
Like you could say, oh well, nowadays you could say, well, this artificial intelligence created what is AI?
AI, we call
Artificial
it.
intelligence.
In my world, we call it AI.
AI.
But yeah, sure. There's a
even in
person creating the AI.
There's
goes
always
back
a
to
person
personality.
behind it. So that's a logical approach, and it, but so therefore I say, generally I find that the although they might present a very simple logic, like we see that persons are limited and God must be unlimited. So there's a logical approach from the opposite end, but I think that's a relatively weak, or let's say it's a very surface level. You got to dig deeper. You can't just stop there. Can person be unlimited?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we see in texts like in our shastras, in our texts like Bhagavatam and texts like Brahma Samhita, they're going to break down exactly how person is unlimited. And going to Raghu's presentation, how it would actually be limiting to say that this presence, whatever, this force, this energy of God, that if it has no personal aspect, then that's a limitation, and therefore is not God, right? Because God, by definition, is unlimited. But again, so logically, I don't see that's not really the issue. I think people's hesitation to accept a personal God is psychological. And there are many psychological reasons.
Because they've been hurt by people.
Because you've been hurt by people.
People let you down.
Oh yeah.
People break your heart.
Okay.
People cheat you.
Yeah. Right. And when, I loved this. I had a good experience this year with the Purushottam Mass that I just read 15th chapter every.
Yeah, we did too. It was nice.
So, and just I began to see things in that chapter that I hadn't seen before, which is, it's a chapter that's talking about having your vision illuminated through contemplation, through reflection. And so Krishna's saying, he's saying we're all these sparks of spiritual energy. We're moving through these different bodies according to our karma. We take on different specific bodies with specific minds, and we're trying to enjoy the world. That's what's happening to everyone. Some people can see this and some people can't see it, right? So some people are aware of it. Some people, it's not even seeing necessarily with the eyes, but what Krishna calls the jnana chakshusha, with the eyes of knowledge. I begin to see the world through these eyes. And then Krishna says, you know what? You want to practice that? I'm the one that's behind the sun. There's a person behind it. I'm the one that's behind the moon, So all the food that you eat, I'm behind all that. But even your digestion, I'm the fire digestion within.
Wait a second. You're saying you're the sun, the moon, and my digestion?
Then he's saying, I'm in the heart of every living being. And he's just going on. So he's saying, I'm everywhere. There's a person behind everything.
These sacred literatures, there are clues. You're like, what am I, the center of the universe? Let me give you a clue.
Yeah.
I'm the sun. I'm the source of the sun. You think
Yeah.
the sun's important? Yeah, it's really important. I'm the source of it.
That's right. Yeah,
I-
there's always person behind. He's trying to show that.
Yeah.
And then at the conclusion of that chapter, there's 2 verses. I'm gonna pull them up. He says, text 15:19. Whoever knows me as the Purushottama, as the ultimate person, right? Purusha, person,
Purusha.
Uttama, the highest person, the ultimate person. Whoever knows, me, that person that's behind everything, whoever knows me as the Purushottama, the supreme person, without doubting, is the knower of everything. And then what's the result of that? Bhajanti mam, they worship me, they serve me, their devotional service is the result of that. So then the final verse, he says, this idea that there's a person behind everything, that one naturally, spontaneously loves and serves. He calls this the Guya Tamam Shastram. This is the most confidential secret in all the sacred texts, right? This idea that there's a divine person behind everything, that's the thing that not everybody will see. That it'll be hard for certain people to see. And that if you're going to try to get them to see it, it might be like trying to bang a square peg into a round hole. They may not be ready to see that. They may need more time or some type of deeper reflection, or you could say purification, a purification of their awareness to be able to accept that their psychological disposition may prevent them from embracing that idea. Logically, I don't see any problem with it, but psychologically, I see issues with it. And so then what's the approach? And it may be patience, it may be logic. Raghunath presented this was a logic, but also like combined with like a new idea for someone, which I feel is actually the strongest approach. I feel like if you have a group of 100 people in front of you and you have to speak about bhakti, if you come out the gate saying, in Krishna Bhakti, we believe that God is a person. He's a blue person that lives over that hill. If you come across with that right off the bat, like if we could see like, the numbers of that 100 that you just lost them, it would probably be a very high percentage of that 100.
Unfollow.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Whereas if you started saying the same thing, but in another way, if you said, drawing, our faith draws from these sacred texts that date back, that they're the oldest texts known, in the Sanskrit language. And when approaching understanding God, they say that God is understood in 3 features. That God can be understood as an all-pervasive energy. That God is everywhere in that sense. That God is within the heart of every living being. God is within me. And that also God can even be understood and known as a person. Now see what the difference is in that, poll of like,
I'm going to start following them again.
So it is, I do believe it's largely psychological. And there's tact involved in how to present it. Right. There needs to be tact.
This, by the way, this is a great lesson for every one of us, because every one of us will have people be like, hey, Gen 2, what is, Victoria, what was your weekend like? So if you answer in a really like not thoughtful way, they're going to think you're crazy. You did what? Why? When? And you're like, so a lot of this stuff has been really thought out. First of all, it's thought out for me to step forward. If I just said everybody should chant for 1 round a day, but I have to really explain why. Remember, without explaining why, who's going to sit there for 20 minutes and just make noises? They have to understand there's some value to this. I can get something out of it. I can control my mind. A lot of my pain in life comes from my mind anyway. So that has to be really teased out and explained first to myself, and then practice against people who have different doubts than you have. And so that's why they say, not only do you get bhakti from studying this stuff and doing this stuff, you get it from the mercy of devotees.
Right.
And so your husband, Krishnadas, he's thought these things through.
He was patient with you.
He was very patient. He was very tolerant. He was very loving, and he's very supportive, and he wasn't pushy, and he wasn't naggy, and he accepted you as you were. But that didn't mean he won't continue to disseminate and try to enter into your mind of how to explain things.
Right.
So that's part of what we do. We first try to argue with our own mind and try to debate our own mind, because my mind doesn't want to give up sense gratification unless there's something much greater. Right. And so we have to debate ourselves. And then we should also think, well, what is another person going to say about this? What is an atheist going to say about this? What is a person who just loves nature going to say about this? What's the person who believes that God is the ocean going to say about this? What if a person says that, we're just here, everything is nothing. Everything is nothing. We're just going to live, have some fun, we die. How would you, and you got to really put yourself in all these situations, and then you can give it to another person. And then if your heart is sincere, then Krishna works through your body, through your senses, through your voice to affect the heart of somebody else.
I was just thinking as you're saying that, if people like this podcast, they like listening to us because they like the way that we explain things. It's really because for decades, Raghunath started by starting his band Shelter, and he would tour around presenting Bhakti to skeptics, like every variety of skeptic.
Every variety of skeptic you could ever imagine.
and
atheists, anarchists, people that hate religion, like punk rockers notoriously hate religion. I was public enemy number one. Matter of fact, I just met his name used to be Parmaseva. I met him. He was like he in Atlanta, and he came to the first Shelter show. And he just said, "Do you remember the show? It was such a crazy fiasco. They were throwing meat at you." And it was just like, you're dealing with the people who are just like, they wanted to hear it the least. Yeah. And we sat there and we explained it and we talked and we had there was debates going on in the parking lot. And it was it was beautiful and glorious.
And I had a similar kind of thing where I was every day going out in the street and trying to convince people to purchase a Bhagavad Gita. And again, hearing every argument from every angle, and just you do that day after day, year after year. Hopefully, and not everybody, but hopefully you begin to say, I need to learn to present this with tact. I need to try to understand where their mind is at, where their doubts lie, what their psychology is, what their what is the nature of their resistance to accepting this. And in one sense, you say respect that, in a sense, honor that. Don't just try to blow through that, but try to work with that and see how far you can take this.
And at the same time, they might actually defeat you. And you have to think, well, what does this mean? Are they right? And you have to actually think that through.
Challenge your own.
And you have to challenge your own belief system. Hey, he made a really good point. It doesn't make sense. Maybe I am just doing this for my own ego and to think I know more than other people. And so it really breaks you down by presenting it on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done.
It was fun.
Well, we got tomorrow.
Pinky.
Tomorrow we can. There are a few. I know that we had Happy Jack had a question. Maha had a question, and maybe we can get another question or two for tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everybody for joining us. And
she got a commercial. 3,
See, Mary,
2,
this is how we do this.
1. Skip ads.
Skip ads. Music. That's it, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to everybody for live in the Wisdom of Sages retreat. Next time we're doing a Wisdom of Sages retreat is in India. Juba, myself, and Mara are going to be there. Joyal Garanga is going to be a guest teacher. Looking forward to that. Radhanath Swami is going to be there. You can go to our website, wisdomofthesages.com/events. wisdomofthesages.com/events. If you haven't liked us or given us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, please do that. It means a lot to us. And please share this podcast with someone you think will like it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hands in the air, please. Haribo. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow. Here. That's a chat. It's the first show that I did not look at the chat board. Just because Stu was sitting right next to me with his... Here, you do it. You do it. He was looking at me the whole time. You better not look at that chat board. He was going to curse me.
All right, we're done.
We're done. Thank you, everybody. We got secretive things to do. Haribo!